You sat down to do one thing. Just one. And somewhere in the last 20 minutes, your hand drifted to your phone, and you don't even remember deciding to pick it up. That little reach, the one your hand makes on its own before you've thought a single thought. Hold on to it, because that reach is the whole story. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. You don't have a focus problem. You have a wanting problem. And from the inside, the two feel identical. For years, you've been told that the chemical behind all of this, dopamine, is your brain's pleasure chemical. It isn't. Dopamine isn't the feeling of enjoying something. It's the feeling of chasing it. It's not the bite of the cookie. It's the pull toward the cupboard. And once you really get that one distinction, the reason you can't sit still with a book, a project, or a single quiet thought suddenly makes complete sense. Because here's what's quietly happening to you every single day. Researchers who track how long people actually stay on one screen before switching found that 20 years ago, the average was about 2.5 minutes. Today, it's around 47 seconds. Not because you got weaker, because the pull got engineered. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 3 things. First, what dopamine actually is. The engine underneath every just one more. Second, the loop that hijacks it. The one running in your pocket right now. And third, why your brain slowly stops finding ordinary life interesting. And the simple, unglamorous way to turn that around. By the end, you'll have one thing you can do today. Quick note before we go on. This is about how your mind works. For learning, not medical or therapy advice. Let's start with the engine. Picture your brain running a tiny prediction every second of the day. Something good is coming. Or it isn't. When something turns out better than your brain expected, you get a spike of dopamine. When it's exactly what you expected, almost nothing. And when it's worse than expected, you get a dip, a flatness, a quiet meh. That's the whole system. Dopamine isn't a reward. It's a teacher. It fires on the gap between what you expected and what you got, and it tags whatever you were doing with one message. Do that again. Now notice what that means. The spike doesn't arrive when you finally get the thing. It arrives before, in the anticipation, in the chase. I'll call this the wanting engine. The part of you built to pursue, to reach, to refresh, to check. It doesn't care whether the thing makes you happy. It only cares whether the thing might be better than expected. But hold on, you might say. I do enjoy my phone. Sure, a little. But watch yourself next time. The good feeling is thin, and it's mostly gone the second you've got it. And yet you reach again. That's not enjoyment driving you. That's wanting. Liking and wanting run on different wiring in the brain, and your phone was built to crank the wanting dial as high as it will go. Which brings us to how. Think about a slot machine for a second. The reason it's the most addictive object ever designed isn't that it pays out. It's that it might. The reward is unpredictable. Pull the lever. Sometimes nothing, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. And your brain, which runs on surprise, lights up hardest exactly when it can't predict what's next. Now look at what's in your hand. You pull down to refresh. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes a message that matters. Sometimes something thrilling. Sometimes garbage. You never know which. That uncertainty isn't a flaw in the design. It is the design. I call this the itch loop. A tiny itch of anticipation. A swipe to scratch it. A flicker of maybe reward. And then, this is the cruel part, a slightly bigger itch than before. You're not scrolling to feel good. You're scrolling to quiet an itch that the scrolling itself keeps making louder. And you know this loop intimately, even if you've never named it. You open your phone to check the time and somehow you're 9 apps deep. You feel a buzz in your pocket that wasn't real. A video ends, the next one's already rolling, and you let it. You reach for it in the elevator, at the red light. In the 4 seconds it takes a page to load. The loop has quietly colonized every gap in your day. Every little pause where, not so long ago, you'd simply have thought. Before we go further, stop for a second. I mean it. Just sit with this one. Every time you fill a gap with a swipe, you're not just losing that minute. You're teaching the engine that gaps are unbearable and must be filled. You're training yourself, rep by rep, out of the ability to be bored. And boredom, plain, restless, empty boredom, turns out to be the doorway to nearly every deep thing you've ever wanted to do. Stay with me, because this next part is where your focus actually went. Remember the engine. dopamine fires on better than expected. So what happens when you spend hours a day flooding it with the most intense, fastest, most novel stimulation ever invented? Your brain does the sensible thing. It moves the goalposts. It raises the bar for what counts as good enough. I call this the raised floor. Your baseline for normal stimulation climbs so high that everything slower now lands beneath it. So you sit down to read, your brain runs its little prediction, and against a floor set by infinite scroll, a single paragraph registers as worse than expected. Flat, slow. You feel the pull to switch before you've even finished the sentence. The book didn't get more boring. Your floor got higher. This is why focus feels physically uncomfortable now. It isn't weakness. It isn't age. It isn't kids these days. Your reward system has been recalibrated to expect a fire hose, an ordinary life, a conversation, a walk. One task done slowly simply can't compete on your brain's own scoreboard. So I'll just white-knuckle it, you say. More discipline. But you can't out-discipline a floor that's set too high. Discipline gets you through one afternoon. To actually get your focus back, you have to lower the floor. And here I have to be straight with you, because the internet is full of nonsense about this. You've probably heard of a dopamine detox. Sit in a gray room for a day, stare at a wall, reset your brain. Let me save you the trouble. You cannot drain your dopamine in a day, and one dramatic day off changes almost nothing. That part is hype. Here's what's real. Your brain's sensitivity genuinely can recover, but it takes weeks, not hours, and it takes specifics, not grand gestures. You don't need to quit everything. You need to lower the floor on the one or two things that spiked it highest. Researchers who study this describe sensitivity slowly returning over a few weeks of consistent, deliberate distance from the heaviest triggers. And the honest caveat, the brain is far more complicated than any single chemical, so treat this as a useful map, not a magic switch. The practice underneath it I call the boredom reset, and it's almost insultingly simple. You deliberately let the small gaps in your day stay empty. The red light, the line at the store, the 2 minutes the kettle takes. Instead of reaching, you just don't. You let yourself be a little bored, on purpose. At first it feels like an itch you're not allowed to scratch, because that's exactly what it is. But every time you sit through it, you teach the engine the gap is survivable. The floor inches down. And slowly, the quiet things start to feel like something again. So here's the one thing to do today, not 7 things. 1. Pick a single block of time. 30 minutes is plenty. Put the phone in another room, not face down on the desk, another room, because the only reliable way to beat the itch loop is to make the lever harder to reach. Then do one task. And when the urge to switch comes, and it will come fast, maybe in the first 40 seconds, don't fight it, and don't obey it. Just notice it. Name it. There's the itch. And stay in your seat. That's the whole rep. The urge rises, you don't act, and a few seconds later it passes, because urges always pass. They're waves, not walls. You won't feel transformed on day 1. You'll feel twitchy, a little annoyed. That's the floor starting to move. Do that 1 block a day, and within a couple of weeks the thing you've been quietly mourning, the ability to sink into something and stay, starts coming back. Not because you found more willpower, because you stopped training it away. Go back to that little reach, the one your hand made before you'd thought a single thought. You were never broken, and you were never lazy. You have a beautifully efficient brain doing exactly what it learned to do. Chase the next better-than-expected thing, inside a world engineered to keep that chase running forever. And the good news hiding in all of it is this. The same brain that learned the itch loop can unlearn it. Your floor went up one tiny reach at a time. It comes back down the same way. So the next time you feel that pull in a quiet moment, try something almost radical. Leave the gap empty. Let yourself be bored for 10 whole seconds. That's not nothing. That's the first rep of getting your mind back. This is for learning, not medical or therapy advice. If focus or compulsive habits are seriously affecting your life, it's worth talking to a professional.